Hey YouTube, today on the shop we have a 2004 F350 with a 6.0 liter diesel. I'm going to be going over fuel injector install, some of the tools we use, some tips and tricks that I've found make the job a little bit easier. So this truck came into the shop with a runs rough when cold symptom. So there's a couple of things that can cause this. It can be low Fickham voltage, it could be a bad glow plug or a glow plug issue, or it could be fuel injectors that have some stiction going on. So when we first got the truck in, we went through a couple of preliminary tests. The tests we did on this particular truck were a key on engine off test on the glow plug system. We found the glow plugs were functioning properly. We checked the Fickham voltage to make sure it was maintaining 48 volts. The Fickham on this truck is healthy. So the next option is fuel injectors. So the way to determine this would be to do a buzz test when the engine is cold. We found that cylinders number 1 and cylinders number 8 weren't buzzing when the engine was cold. Once we got it up to operating temperature, they buzzed just fine, but when it was at normal ambient temperature, the injectors just wouldn't buzz. Some other symptoms of a bad fuel injector could be runs rough, not only in the morning, but while you're driving, even while the engine is warm. Could also be a lack of power. And then in some instances, you could have heavy smoke coming out of the tailpipe, either white smoke if you have a really bad injector or black smoke. And other symptoms could be poor fuel economy. Once you determine that you do in fact have a fuel injector issue, you want to go ahead and before you replace the injectors, just check a few things. Number 1 is check fuel pressure. I'll put a link to another video I have that covers checking fuel pressure and installing a Blue Spring upgrade. And you also want to check for proper maintenance. Make sure that the right oil is being used in the truck. Make sure that the proper filtration is being used in the truck. Low fuel pressure is the number 1 cause of fuel injector failure. The number 2 cause of fuel injector failure is lack of maintenance. So you want to make sure those things are up to par. And no matter what, if you're doing a set of fuel injectors, I always recommend doing a nice fresh oil change and doing a set of fuel filters just to cover your bases. Some fuel injector companies won't even warranty their product unless those things are changed at the same time. So this truck had a misfire on cylinders number 1 and cylinder number 8. So all the odd numbers are on the passenger side. So 1, 3, 5, 7. And all the even numbers are on the driver's side. 2, 4, 6, and 8. So we have a misfire, 1 on each side. Typically, I like to do at least 4 fuel injectors, all 4 on that one side, just because the hardest part is getting to the injectors. Once you're to the injectors, the labor to do each additional one is minimal. So I like to try to do all 4 on the one side. This customer opted to go with all 8 fuel injectors, which I advise him is probably his best bet if he could afford it at the time. If you can't afford it, you don't have to do all of the injectors on that side. I just highly recommend it. If you're doing it yourself, sometimes, hey, you can eat the labor if you have to go back in another time. But if you're paying a shop to do it especially, it's definitely worth it to get all of them done, because chances are if one of your injectors is on the way out or one of your injectors is suffering, especially like in this case some stiction, your other injectors are probably pretty close to being at their failure point. So today, just to save a little time, I'm just going to show you what I believe is the more difficult side to do, and that's the passenger side. We are also doing the driver's side, but I'm going to leave that out of this video for now. If you were doing the driver's side, the only difference would be you need to take the intake out and the Fickham off, and then I like to disconnect the degas bottle and just push it to the side. The Fickham is just a few extra bolts. The bracket on it is very similar to how the glow plug control module is. Just if you are going to be doing the fuel injection control module and pulling that off, make sure when you plug it back in that you actually audibly hear the clicks of the connector. a big issue people have is they don't get those connectors plugged all the way back in, and it can cause some no-start issues. It can sometimes even farther down the road, the connector will vibrate loose and cause some issues for you. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is disconnect both negative battery terminals, and then we're going to go ahead and take the 10 millimeter nut off the positive battery terminal. That wire feeds over to the glow plug control module, and it also feeds over to the alternator, so I like to get that out of my way. Next step after the battery is disconnected is to get this intercooler pipe out of the way. It's going to be an 11 millimeter or 7/16. They're both the same size. I always like, quick tip here, I always like to take the clamp off on the component side. So I like to leave the rubber hoses attached to the actual pipe itself. I've personally found it's much easier to get them back together. These hoses, if you've never had any experience with them, these boots can be a little bit tricky sometimes. And I just found it much easier if you leave it on the pipe side, take it off of the component side. So let's get this intercooler pipe out of here. Next, we're going to be taking this glow plug control module off. So how we're going to do that is we're going to start by unplugging the ICP sensor, unplugging the black and the green connector on the glow plug control module, and then I like to feed that power wire we talked about earlier down around the AC line. Then fold it up out of the way for right now. After you get that wire out of the way, you'll notice on this particular truck, the tape's already been ripped off, but there's a little holder that goes on top of this stud that holds the glow plug harness on. So normally you would just take that and just kind of pull and wiggle, and it pops right off. There's usually a couple of retainers all the way around. Someone's already been in this, kind of hacked it up a little bit, but you'll get the point. You'll see there's some tabs that'll hold this glow plug wire all the way around on the truck. A lot of times I like to unplug, which is the connector is right behind the alternator. It's a 4-wire plug, and it's got a blue, a white, a red, and a yellow wire. So I'll unplug that, and then I'll fish that around. Get that right out of your way. Once that's out of your way, there's going to be 4 10 millimeter nuts that hold this glow plug relay, the glow plug control module on. On the earlier build trucks, like the early 03s, 04s, and the 2003s, the ICP sensor won't be here. It'll be in the back on the engine. But on this one, it's right here. You can leave the sensor right in. It actually doesn't interfere with the job at all. And I like to keep it in that way I don't get any debris in the oil rail. So you're going to take these 4 10 millimeter nuts off. Just use caution to use a good socket, because sometimes these are on really tight, and if you round them off, they can be a real pain to take off. Next step is the transmission dipstick tube. There's going to be a 10 millimeter nut that holds it onto a stud. I found the easiest way to get to this is a 10 millimeter flex head ratchet wrench, and you kind of just got to reach over between the shock tower and the valve cover, and you get that nut right off of the dipstick. I found a lot of times on these, the nut will come off a few threads and then stop, and then it'll start to pull the whole valve cover bolt out. Don't worry about fighting it too much. A lot of times I'll just let the whole thing come out, and if that is the case, then I'll take the dipstick tube completely out of the truck, and I will separate the nut from the stud once I get it out. Once you get the nut off, you can just pick up on the dipstick tube. I like to leave it right in and push it to the side. Some guys take them out. If you want to take it out, you can take it out. It just goes down and sticks into the top of the transmission, and you can wiggle it and get it out. I don't really feel like it's that much in my way personally, so I leave them right inside the truck. Quick tip, before you take any major engine component off, and this goes for intake manifolds, valve covers, any of that, I always recommend you take a little bit of shop air and blow any dirt or debris off from around it. Can save you a lot of headaches down the road, and it's always best to make sure you're working in a clean work environment. If the truck is really dirty, it's a good idea to wash the engine off before you even get started. This one's not that bad. It's a little bit dusty, so I'm just going to take some shop air, blow off around the valve cover here, and we'll start taking the bolts off. So holding the valve cover on, there's 11 12 millimeter bolts. Some of them are studs, some of them are just standard bolt heads. So the majority of them you can get off with a regular 12 millimeter socket, 1/4 inch drive with an air ratchet, or however you want to take those off. Some of them are a little tricky. On the passenger side, there's a couple of bolts that are basically between the valve cover and the heater box. So how I like to get to those is I use a 12 millimeter flex head ratchet wrench, and I kind of almost jam my arm above the exhaust manifold and below the heater box, and then come up from the bottom, and I work those bolts off that way. They're typically not that tight. Just my only suggestion is pay attention to the orientation of where the studs are versus where the bolts are, because a lot of the studs hold things down, like the glow plug module or the transmission dipstick tube. Hate to get them all threaded back in there and just find out that you got to take them back out to get some other component bolted back down. So next thing after you get the valve cover off is to start attacking this oil rail. So one little quick thing I want to throw in, a lot of the thing about these 6 liters is sometimes when you're in there, you should do other things. So, for instance, you always want to make sure that your dummy plugs and standpipes are upgraded. Now's a good time to do it. The labor is free. So a good way to tell if you don't have the upgraded ones, or the latest update, I should say, is the original dummy plugs had a square drive that took a 1/2 inch. You could put like a 1/2 inch extension in there. The second revision had a 10 millimeter Allen. So the final revision that they have now takes a 12 millimeter Allen. So if you don't have the dummy plugs and standpipes that take a 12 millimeter Allen, you don't have the latest revision, and you're going to be asking for trouble down the road. That'll give, as covered in my no start 6.0 high pressure oil leak diag video, that'll give you a hard start or a no start at all. So now's the time to do them. That being said, let's get this rail off. So this is the later style rails. This one takes a T30 Torx bit that holds it down all the way around. If you have the early style rails, it's going to have a straight log, and there's going to be 8 millimeter bolts that hold it down. And there's also going to be an oil line that you have to unclip. So there's a special tool, and actually, this is a tool that you would use to disconnect that oil line. If you don't have one of these, you actually can use a tool for like a die grinder to change the discs off. It does fit. This does have a nice tapered end on it to get into the slot a little bit. and you would push that down between the black collar, and you pop it, and then you can pop the line off. And then you can go about taking the rest of the bolts off and take the rail off. So, a couple of tricks on these. Make sure that you have a T30 that fits well. If you round off these Torx bits, it's a nightmare to get them off. I've had a few come in that they were already rounded off, and it can really turn into a big project. So make sure that you're in the hole straight, and then you have a Torx bit that fits properly in each bolt, and just take your time, put some downward pressure on it, make sure they're in there good, and take them out. So I actually have a special socket that I made for the couple of bolts that are between the oil rail and the heater box. You'll see it's going to be really hard for me to show it on the camera, but there's 2 bolts that are between the oil rail and the heater box that are extremely difficult to get to. So a couple of the ways you can do that is you can either use just a Torx bit and then use a little wrench on it to crack them free, and then usually they'll spin out by hand. Or I have a little bit holder that's just short enough, and I cut a bit short, and you can use that in a 1/4" drive ratchet and get them to crack free. Now you want to try your best to get them out by hand the rest of the way, because a lot of times the ratchet will bind up against the heater box. So let's get this oil rail off. So we're going to start by taking the standpipe out. Sometimes it'll come out in 2 pieces, sometimes it'll come out in 1 piece, and then you'll have to pull it up. And on this side it's a little difficult because you can't get it out in 1 piece. So you have to pull it up and then separate the 2 halves right above the heater box. It can be a little bit tricky, but let's get that standpipe out, and then there's going to be 9 of those Torx bits on this newer style rail that hold it down. So I like to start with the difficult ones between the heater box, get those done, get them out of the way, and then take the rest of them out. After all the bolts are out, you can kind of pick up nice and gentle on the rail. Try to get it as square as possible. And sometimes you got to give it a little wiggle and it'll pop up. Once you get it to pop off, I like to kind of leave it over the valve cover area, over the rockers a little bit, because this rail is full of oil, and if you just pull it right off, you're going to make a big mess everywhere. Once it drains for a little bit, then you can take it, pull it out, and I like to put it upside down on the bench, otherwise this thing will leak forever. So let's start getting these injectors unplugged. So if you look, there's a little metal tab that's holding the injector connector on. So a lot of people will pull those out. They go flying all over the place. You lose them. You actually don't need to pull them out. If you push the metal tab towards the injector connector, it actually spreads open and you can slide it off. So how I like to do it is I like to take a little flathead screwdriver and just give it a push. And then from there, can't really do it. I have one hand on the camera here, but you'd push on it with one hand, and then with the other hand, pull the injector off, the connector off, sorry. So the next tip I have is how to get the electrical connector out of the rocker box. So the injector has these 2 little push tabs that kind of secure it in to the rocker box itself. And what I use to do to take that out is a 19mm socket. It works a little easier with a 12 point, but you don't necessarily need a 12 point to do this. So you're going to take it and you're going to push it over one set of the clips and then rock it down onto the other. And sometimes it's easier if you put a little extension on there. You can use that as a handle, but you're just going to push, rock it down, and then you'll see the connector will push down out of the rocker box. It's not going to push all the way through. You're going to have to pull it the rest of the way out of there. Ford does make a tool to do this, but I think that you're paying a lot of money for something you essentially have already in your toolbox. My next tip is going to be, when you do go back together, make sure that this connector is seated all the way into the rocker box. Sometimes I'll even give it a tug to make sure it doesn't come back out, because what I have seen sometimes is some guys will put these connectors in, they're not all the way in, and then they'll put the valve cover back on, and when they go to plug the electrical connector back into it, they'll push this through the rocker box and it'll go back into the head. So the problem with that is now you have the valve cover back on, so you're not going to be able to pull this thing through the rocker box without damaging the end of the connector. So that means valve cover is coming back off. So let's get these injectors pushed out, and then I'll go on to the next step. So to unbolt these injectors, you're going to need a long Torx bit. Now, some of them are a T40, some of them are a T45. What I've typically found is the later builds, 06 and up, and the Econolines went to 2010. Those were a T45. You will find some exceptions here, so don't hold me to this, but the T40 is what I found on the majority of trucks from 03 to 05. You really want to use a long Torx bit, because if you use the short ones, the actual body that holds the bit will contact the spool valve on the injector, and it'll actually be cocked when it goes in. You can't really get a straight shot on it. And if for some reason you are reusing the injectors, you can damage the electrical connector at the top of the spool valve, and it can just be real tricky to get it out. So I always recommend the longer ones. If I can, I'll try to put a link to some of these in the description, and just use a 3/8 ratchet, back it off, and try as hard as you can not to use any air tools on any of these injectors. At this point, you can use an air ratchet all the way up to here, but this is where I like to put the air ratchet in the draw. Just take all these out by hand. You want to go out nice and easy and make sure that as you're backing the injector hold down out, you're not getting any resistance. After you get the injectors out, you want to make sure that you inspect the bore pretty good. Sometimes if you lose a copper washer at the bottom of the injector, you'll see soot or black staining that'll come up and it'll blow the bottom O-ring out. When that's the case, you really want to make sure you take like a nice nylon brush. Don't take a steel brush, you'll ruin the cup. But take a nylon brush, get it down in the injector cup, and make sure that's all cleaned out. Once you get it cleaned out, what you're going to do is just lightly lubricate the O-rings here, the one on the injector connector here, and verify that you have a copper washer at the bottom. I've never seen one that was missing the copper washer, but it's just good practice to verify that you have everything there. Make sure that there's no plugs on anything. They usually come with a cap on top of the nozzle itself. You want to make sure you take that off, and then make sure the hold down fits on the injector. Once you get that on, slowly insert each one in their respective bores, and then start the bolts by hand. Do not use a ratchet to start the bolts. Make sure that you get them. They're going to thread down a little bit, and what I like to do is I have a little stubby ratchet, that it's nice and short. You can't apply a lot of torque with this, so it's really good because you can kind of get a good feeling tightening the injector down. Now, you only want to bring this until it just barely stops. Once you get it all the way down where the hold down just stops, what you're going to do is torque it. I torque these to 26 foot-pounds. There's a little bit of controversy back and forth on what people torque them to. Some people say it's 24, some people say it's 25. I've always torqued injectors to 26 foot-pounds. I've never had an issue, and I'm just going to keep doing it that way. I've been using these Pure Power injectors, so I've had great luck with these. They've been really good to me. I've never had a failure with a Pure Power injector. So there is a rumor Pure Power is the person that makes the injectors for Ford. I can't verify that. Might want to do your own research on that. But what I can say, if you don't use a Pure Power injector or a Ford injector, is don't go cheap. This is definitely the type of market where you get what you pay for. If you buy a cheap $100 fuel injector, you're 9 times out of 10 going to have issues down the road. Most of them don't replace the spool valve. They just clean it up, put it back together. They only replace the parts that have failed at the time, where when you go with a Pure Power or with the Motorcraft fuel injector, everything is new. There's nothing left behind that can fail on you. I mean, you can get a bad one. It's possible, but the odds are a lot less likely when you go with a premium fuel injector. Do your own research on this. Make sure you check reviews if you're not buying them. I'm going to put a link to these injectors in the description. I've had great luck with them. 2-year unlimited mileage warranty. You kind of can't beat that. So make sure you're using quality. Let's get these injectors torqued in here. Then push the electrical connectors through. Then reinstall the oil rail. Alright guys, so when you're installing that oil rail, you want to make sure you get it on nice and square. You want to make sure that all the little nipples go nice and easily into the tops of the injectors, and it shouldn't really take a lot of effort to get that rail to sit all the way down. You don't want to force it in because you can damage the O-rings on top of the fuel injectors and cause yourself some other problems. So let's get that rail on, get your dummy plug and your standpipe in on that side, and then from there you can get the valve cover on. Start putting the transmission dipstick tube back on, glow plug control module, intercooler pipe, batteries, and all that good stuff. And then you're going to go to fire the truck up. So I like to cycle the key a few times, get some fuel back in the fuel rail, and once you do that, then you're going to crank it. It's not going to fire up right away. You've drained all the oil out of the high pressure oil rail, so you're essentially creating a huge air pocket in there. Don't be scared. Crank it for a little while. Once you get it to fire up, just let it idle. Every once in a while, one of these trucks will run a little bit rough until you get the air worked out of the high pressure oil system. Don't be too scared of that unless it's running really bad. And if you're getting a ton of smoke out, maybe you didn't get an injector torque down properly. But if it's just running a little rough, don't be too scared right away. Let it run for a little while. Get the scan tool on it. Verify you got no other issues going on, and then you're going to take it out for a road test. A little bit of heavy acceleration helps to get the air pockets worked out of the high pressure oil system. If not, you may get an extended crank for a little bit until you get that all worked out. But it's pretty straightforward from there on out. Just reassemble, start it up, and you should be good to go. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And, leave me a comment if you have any questions or there's something else you want to see, or even if you just want to say hi, don't hesitate to reach out to me. So, once again, guys, I really appreciate everything, and thanks for watching In the Shop.